Welcome you all in geological knowledge. So today we will discuss a very important topic that is related to the groundwater provinces of India. We will discuss both the groundwater provinces of India as well as the mineralogical belt of India. Okay. So in this part we will discuss only the groundwater provinces of India, and it's very important for you to understand if you want to understand the hydrogeological structure of any area, suppose any district or any state or even the our whole nation or whole country. So you must have a basic idea that what are the provinces of groundwater in the country, that where we can found the water. Okay, and what are the type of water, what is their characteristic properties, and which type of rocks, whether they are porous permeable or porous permeable both, and up to what limit, at the what quantity of water, quality and quantity of water that has been mined, that has been uh, that we are getting in the structures of the some types of rocks. So these are very important factors for you to understand. Okay, and this is a topic of GSI mains perspective, so that is also important for the exam point of view. Okay, and if this topic is not in your syllabus, still you must know about the groundwater provinces, that where the provinces are and what are their characteristic properties. So let's start our discussion. So the groundwater provinces that are occurring generally in the eight types of uh, structures, eight types of rock structures of various ages. Okay, so important ones are the Precambrian crystalline provinces, the Precambrian sedimentary province, the Gondwana sedimentary province, or the Deccan Trap sedimentary province, sorry, Deccan Trap province, Cenozoic sedimentary province, Cenozoic fault basin province, and Indo-Gangetic alluvial province, which is the uh, best, okay, uh, groundwater province, or the we can call them the richest groundwater province of our country, that is the Indo-Gangetic alluvial province, and the Himalayan highland province of groundwater. Okay, so we will discuss in detail about all types of provinces. So this is a generalized map from where you can understand the basics, or in the map you can identify the regions. As you can see, the index is given there, the groundwater provinces, and there are 8 indexes which are given here. You can read it out: the Precambrian crystalline, the Precambrian sedimentary or the Gondwana sedimentary, Deccan Traps, Cenozoic. They are numbered, and you can identify in which region or in which province your state or your district lying there. Okay, so we will start our discussion with the first one, that is the Precambrian crystalline province. So if we talk about the Precambrian sedimentary Precambrian crystalline province, so that is underlain by the igneous and the metamorphic rocks of Precambrian age, that extends from Kanyakumari in the south to Delhi in the north. And these rocks are weathered up to 30 meter, and groundwater that occurs water table the groundwater occurs under water table conditions. Okay, the groundwater that occurs under the semi confined to confined conditions, depending upon the depth and the nature of the fractures. Okay, so we all know that the groundwater that seeps through the fractures, along the fractures and across the fractures, so the quality or the quantity or the condition, that will depend upon the depth and the nature of the fracture we are dealing with. Okay, so the more the fractures, more the joints planes, so more is the water seeping through these planes. And groundwater development is largely by the open dug wells and large diameter wells. Okay, so that groundwater development is largely by the open dug wells and the large diameter wells. If we talk about the well yield, so that is 20 cubic meter to 200 cubic meter per day, or very common. Okay, so that yield is important, that you have not to go for the very approximately or exact reading or exact yielding, but in general you must have a brief idea that in what range the well yield is there. Okay, so if we talk about the Precambrian province, so that is 20 cubic meter to 200 cubic meter. And we have discussed the groundwater movement, that is mainly along the joints or the fracture planes. So quartzites and the marbles divide of primary porosity opening is not numerous. That's the reason, because the quartzite and the marbles, they are the host rock, and they are basically divide of primary porosity, or the opening is not numerous because of the dividedness of the primary porosity. Okay, generally these are considered to be poor aquifers. Okay, water condition is not so good. In case of the limestone characterized by solution cavities can be expected to give higher yield. Okay, the solution cavities formed of the limestone, they can be expected to give a higher yield of water. Okay, and next one is the Precambrian sedimentary basin, and that is the very important or very uh, well illustrated sedimentary province or the groundwater province. So this province comprises of the limestone, shales, sandstone, quartzites and local conglomerates which belonging to Precambrian to early Paleozoic age. Okay, and these provinces, they are found basically in the Kadapa basin, the Raipur basin, Vindhyan basin or the western Rajasthan basin. So basically in the central India and the adjoining regions like Andhra Pradesh, Raipur, Chhattisgarh, Vindhyan, that is the UP and the uh, Madhya Pradesh or MP region, and western Rajasthan. Because of the compaction and the cementation process, the rocks, they are mostly devoid of primary porosity. But the introduction of structural features, the secondary porosity may develop, and the karstification of the calcareous rocks that have yielded conspicuous supply or the copious supply of groundwater. So what I mean to say is that the compaction and the cementation process, so that because of that process the rocks are mostly devoid of primary structure or the primary porosity, but the introduction of structural features, the secondary porosity may develop. Okay, after this discussion we will go for the hydrogeological parameters or the hydrogeology. So there we will discuss about the porosity, permeability and the types of porosity. There we will discuss the primary and the secondary porosity. Okay, so the karstification of calcareous rocks that have yielded the copious supply of groundwater. Okay, and weathering varies from weathering varies up to 200 meter. I mean, if we talk about the groundwater occurrence, so that is largely limited to 150 meter, and the yield characteristics or yield characters that range from 5 to 200 cubic meter per day. So that is also not so high. Okay, and the Gondwana sedimentary province. So this province occurring as a disconnected patches, mainly the fluviatile or the lacustrine sediments of sandstone, shale and with little amount of limestone. So the province that is disconnected patches and mainly of which origin, that is the fluviatile or the lacustrine sediments of sandstone, shales and with little amount of limestone. Okay, and we can also call them the continental margin sedimentary belts. These are thin covering of the porous sedimentary rocks of the Mesozoic Gondwana to Cenozoic age that extend from patches in the coastal belt from Odisha through the Kerala to Saurashtra. Okay, and these rock formation are classified into lower and the upper formations. The total thickness of the formation, if we talk about, so total thickness that range from 6 to 7 kilometer. The lower Gondwana, that is compact, and it's devoid of water because source rock is compact shale. Okay, the lower Gondwana source rock is compact shale, so that is why the reason, that is the lower Gondwana region, that is devoid of water because of the source rock of compact shale. But if we talk about upper Gondwana sediments, they form a very good aquifers because they are because those are more arenaceous. Okay, so their porosity and permeability, that is high, and water table lies generally within 30-meter dug wells in productive sandstone yielding maximum water. Okay, so because in upper Gondwana the source rock or the host rock, these are the more arenaceous type, so water table that generally within the 30-meter dug wells in productive sandstone that yield maximum amount of water. Okay, and next very important, that is the Deccan Trap province. So if we talk about the Deccan Trap province, so they are comprising basaltic flow, includes hard massive traps, vesicular traps, tuffs or the breccias, as or the intertrapians, and we have discussed already about the Deccan Traps. So there we have discussed their composition or the structural features. So their composition is basically the basaltic flow, and that includes generally the hard massive traps or the vesicular traps and tuffs, breccias or the intertrapians. There we have discussed. And if we talk about the age, so age we all are aware with that. So that is from late Cretaceous to early Eocene. But our concern for this topic is the groundwater conditions. So the flow are flat, but dip of 5 to 15, 50 to 150 is also seen in some places. Okay, the trap has been divided into three groups, we have discussed already. In the Deccan Trap province, in the Deccan Trap we were discussing the upper, middle and the lower Gondwana, which are 450, 1200 and 1500 meter thick. The occurrence of the red balls, which is reddish brown clay material, water bearing, causes problem during the drilling process. So the occurrence of red balls, which are generally the reddish brown clay material, so water bearing causes the problem during the drilling process. Okay, and if we talk about the occurrence of groundwater, so the groundwater occurs under water table conditions in weathered and jointed traps, and borewell drilled in the traps that have given higher yield, mostly trapping two or more flows. Okay, the bore wells which have been dug, the traps have given higher yield, mostly trapping two or more flows. The contact between the traps and the basement rock have yielded considerable quantity of water. Okay, and the next very important basin, province, that is the Cenozoic sedimentary basin. So the province comprises of narrow coastal plain along the Kerala and Tamil Nadu coast, and coastal fringes of Saurashtra and the Kutch Peninsula. Okay, so we all know the Cenozoic sedimentary basins, Cenozoic sedimentary province that uh, that comprises of the narrow coastal plains along the Kerala and Tamil Nadu coast, as well as the Saurashtra and Kutch Peninsula in the western part of India. So in the east coast, seaward dipping strata, they contain several artesian aquifers, and the province that is characterized by the sandstone and the shale. The host rock is very important for you to understand or to remember. The shale, sorry, the this province that is characterized mainly by the sandstone and the shales. So shale is more compact, impervious, and yield little water. Okay, so shale is that sometimes it works as a reservoir rock. So shale is more compact, impervious and yield little water. Whereas if you talk about sandstone and conglomerates, so they are highly permeable and they yield about 150 cubic meter. Example, the best example is the Kudalur sandstone. Okay. And if we talk about the aquifer belt in this belt or in this province, the aquifer in this belt, they like those of the Kudalur sandstone of the Cretaceous age in Tamil Nadu, or the Umia sandstone if we talk about the Jurassic age in Gujarat, or the if we talk about Gondwana or Mesozoic sandstone in the central etc. Okay, so these are important formations. And if we especially talk about Kudalur sandstone, so that is the best host rock. Okay, sandstone in the conglomerate, they are highly permeable as we have discussed and yield about 150 cubic meter. Example, the best example is the Kudalur sandstone. And if we talk about the western part, northwestern part, that is basically the Cambe basin. Those are sediment of deltaic estuarine and lagunal alternate with the marine sediments with which are generally saline. Okay, we all know that the west coast, the sediments of deltaic estuarine and the lagunal, they alternate with the marine sediments which are generally saline in nature. So springs are also developed in hilly tracts of these regions. And if we talk about the Cenozoic fault basins, so three discrete fault basins that includes mainly the Narmada, Purana, Narmada, Purna and the Tapti Valley, Tapti River Valley, okay, which are forming in the, which flows in the rift valleys or the rift fault, okay. So they contain quaternary valleys filled deposit consisting of sand and gravel intermixed with the silt and clays that are affected by the faults. Okay, so they contain basically the quaternary valley which are filled deposit, and they may consist of sand and gravel. They are intermixed with sometimes with the silt and clay which are affected because of the faulting or the rifting. And if we talk about the thickness, so thickness range from 50 meter to 150 meters. So these lenses are sand and gravel which form moderately yielding aquifers, okay, in the faulted basins, faulted regions. And the next and the most important one, which is the highest yielding province of our country, that is the Ganga-Brahmaputra alluvial province. As we have written here, it's the next most extensive province, covering almost northern Indian plains after Precambrian crystalline provinces. They are deposited in the four deep of crystal buckle. The thickness increases from south to north. Okay, so Ganga Brahmaputra alluvial plains or the provinces, so they are the north, they basically occur in the northern Indian plains. Okay, and they are deposited in the four deep or the crystal buckles. And if we talk about the thickness, the thickness increases from south to north. As we move from south to north, the thickness increases. The basement is hard rock under the alluvial sloping at an average of 1 to 30, sorry 10 to 30. In alluvial, groundwater occurs in three distinct physiographic and hydrological belts, and which are very important belts for you to remember. That is the Bhabar, consisting of talus materials from the hilly regions or the hill slopes, which is highly permeable and unsorted boulder, grave, grave sand and the little clay. Okay, so distinct physiographic units or the hydrological belts. So Bhabar consist of the talus material which are generated or which are laid down from the hill slopes, which are highly permeable, as well as unsorted boulders, grave sand and the little clay. And the belt that is merges with the tarai, consisting of permeable water bearing gravel, sand and the pebble intermingle with the silt and clay. Okay, so as we know the classification, okay, bhabar, tarai and the bangar and the khadar. So the, if we talk about the axial belt, which comprises of the stratified fine gravel sand, silt and clay deposited by the river system. Okay, so the material that is deposited by the river system, they are stratified fine gravel, silt and the clay deposits. Water table in this area is less than 10 millibar gull. Okay, wells have recorded free flow of 100 to 300 cubic meter per hour. The groundwater have been developed by the dug cum bore wells, the casing well and the tube wells yielding up to 300 to 300 cubic meter per hour to 6 to 109 meter of drawdown. Okay, so that is quite high if we talk about. And the next one is the Himalayan highland province. So this province includes the group of highly folded as well as the faulted sedimentary rocks that range in age from the Paleozoic to Cenozoic rock. Okay, the age is very important, Paleozoic to Cenozoic, and the structure is that is the faulted and the folded sedimentary rocks. So these sedimentary rocks are mainly comprising of limestone, sandstone and shale and their metamorphic equivalents. Those are traversed by the deep gorges and the uh, intermundane valley, which are generally filled with the alluvium. So this act as a conduit and transmits large quantities of water which recharges the Ganga-Brahmaputra province. Okay, so the if we talk about the host rock, so host rocks are the limestone, sandstone, shale and their metamorphic equivalents. Okay, which are filled with the alluvium of this tract, and this act as a conduit and transmits huge quantity of water which recharges the Ganga-Brahmaputra province. Whereas the alluvium of this dug well for domestic purpose have yielded 100 to 200 cubic meter per hour. Okay, if we talk about the yield, so that yield is 100 to 200 cubic meter per hour with iron dissolved solid constituents content. Okay, so this was our discussion about the groundwater provinces of India, and it's important for you to understand the basics behind them, means the host rock or their quantities, qualities of dug wells, and in which type of rocks they are occurring, especially their ages also. Okay, so this was our discussion about the groundwater provinces of India. So this chapter is also given, or this material is given in the book by Umeshwar Prasad, economic geology book by Umeshwar Prasad. So in that chapter of groundwater you can read it out, it's given here and very well illustrated, the groundwater provinces of India. So he has divided into four types of provinces: the alluvial belts, the continental margin, sedimentary belts, or the fissure and weathering hard rocks. That is the Deccan Traps, and the important one, that the Himalayan regions. Okay, so he has divided into four provinces. Okay, so you can read it out. Okay, thank you.